All right, here was the challenge. So this is a fourth wheel out of a Hamilton pocket watch, and as you can see, the pivot is broken off on the end here. I tried to repivot this by taking one of these circuit board drills. I got a bunch of these, and a very small one, and drilling through the end of the pivot, or drilling through the current shaft with a broken pivot, and then trying to attack the problem from that perspective. And it failed miserably because the drill just kept breaking on me and stuff. So I went to bed last night and thought, how do I solve this problem? Again, apologize for the long nails. They're for guitar. Anyway, how do I solve this problem? I woke up thinking, why don't I just take some blued steel here, drill a hole in the end of the blued steel, make it just smaller than the current shaft that's there, friction fit the shaft to the blued steel, and then grave the blued steel down to the size of the pivot for the fourth wheel, which is the seconds hand, which is 0.25 millimeters, and I can grave that down and then fit that to 0.25 millimeters, and then I've got myself a new pivot kind of going, instead of inside of the shaft here, it's going outside the shaft. So that's what I'm going to do. This is the right size drill bit to be drilling through here. It's around the right size. It's around the size of this shaft here. So I'm going to see if I can take a chunk of this blued steel here, and I don't need a huge piece, but it just needs to be about this big, and drill the hole through there and then grave down the remainder. So it's going to be fat, 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 going to thin through the jewel, and then sticking out long enough to be able to put the second hand on once I put the Hamilton. It's a grade 992 movement, and I really want to fix this because it's a beautiful movement. I'll just show you what the movement looks like for now. And most of the, like the center wheel is gold. Like, this thing is gorgeous. So the face is mint. This is gold. Now I hear it's gold plated. Someone said it was gold plated, gold filled, or whatever you want to call it. There's the escapement here, and then this other wheel would go, I just touched that and it moved. Anyway, the seconds wheel would go through here, and then the pivot for that would go down, and then this would go up through the plate. There's the plate right here, and I've already measured the size of the of this jewel hole using my pivot gauges, and it is 0.25. So I got to do that and see if I can fashion a shaft with a pivot attached to the end of it. And I'm not sure, if it doesn't friction fit, I'm just going to add a little tad of glue there and stick it in the hole and glue it on, and we'll just see how that works. So I'll be back with my lathe set up in a few seconds. Okie dokie. So phase 2, I get the lathe set up. First thing I want to do is take this little tiny piece of metal. This is the blued steel that's going to go over top of the shaft, and the other side of this blued steel is going to become the pivot that goes through the jewel hole and becomes the second hand pivot. And what I did was I took one of these circuit board drill things, and I took my plate, which is a 400 grit diamond plate, this thing here, and I made like a screwdriver tip on it, and this is to face off the end so I can find center on it, and hopefully find center so when I start drilling I won't have an issue. So I'm going to see if this works. I'm going to apply a little bit of cutting oil, because you know how good cutting oil is. Actually, without cutting oil this doesn't work too well. So just put a little bit on my finger and then tap it on this like that, and that should be enough. And then let's see if I can get any metal to move here. Right, I did get a bit of a hole drilled there, which is nice. So I think that did work. Yeah, it's moving, and that's drilling the hole. I'm going to put a bit of pressure on this to make it work, and I don't want this to snap off. There we go. Now I'm gonna flip this out. I actually tighten tighten the top here, and then loosen it again. There's a thing on the top here. I won't show it to you, but then I just pull that out, and that's out. And then I have the drill bit I want to use. Now what I don't want to do is snap this drill bit off. So I'm going to be very careful with drilling with this bit. I don't have to go that deep, because if you tighten that and then tighten the bit, I think you need sound effects when you do that. There we go. Now the bit can move in and out. And what I'm trying to do, again, if I look at this piece here, if you look at that shaft right there, I'm trying to drill a hole in there that's just a bit bigger than this shaft, or almost the same size, so I can just take this wheel with shaft and add it to the end there. So I want to go a little bit deeper than the end so they can file it off nice and flat. So let's see if I can do some cutting here. And I don't want to break the bit inside of the blued steel. I did that before, and it's a real pain in the butt to get it out. So, and I'm not sure how many of these yellow shafts I have before I run out. So let me see if this works here at all. So it seems to be off center and rotating, so I may have to take a graver and go on the inside a bit to flatten this out, or I'll take this bit again and see if I can, like I said before, drive that in again and make that sort of center it. And let me just pause and try that out. So again, a little bit of cutting oil. I have that screwdriver like tipped bit in there right now. Again, because I don't want the other bit wobbling at all, because that'll ruin it all. So let me try this again and see if I can cut more material out of there. It looks like it's digging in a bit. I'm having to put a whole lot of pressure on that though. So let me try a little bit more of this cutting oil. See if this helps at all. And also, if I can remove some of the stuff, I'm looking for my Rodico, there it is. If I can remove some of the metal from the tip of this, it might help. So just clean it up a bit and then go inside again. A little bit of cutting oil. It's cutting again. I'm digging a hole here somehow. Let me see how deep that is. Well, that's not bad actually. A little more cutting oil, and I might sharpen that bit again for a second here. I do not want to snap that bit off. That's the worst case scenario. So I want to come in here and then just sharpen the end of that bit a bit. So I got to see where the angle is here. It's right there. So I can sharpen that like that, and then turn that around, look for the other flat side, and then sharpen this like this, like that, and then a little more cutting oil, as they say. Not really sure who they are, but anyway. No, I even know I said that, as they say. Who the hell are they? That's pretty deep right now. I wonder if I can fit that pivot in there. Alright, that's cutting there. I'm going to take a little Rodico here I'm actually curious to see if this will fit over the inside here at all, because I think it's smaller than what I used, but I'm going to see if it fits, but I don't think it will, but I'm going to try it out. Let me get a piece of Rodico here just to hold it so I can fit that in there and see where I am. No, it's not big enough. It's a nice start to the hole though, so that's going in that deep before the thread. When I turn that around, that's actually deep enough right there. So I just turn it for a few more seconds here. I want to overdo it here because I'll be pissed off if if the blade goes on me. So okay, that's good enough. Alright, now I have to switch this out and just to show you what I got for like a millisecond. There, I'm just loosening that up on top, and this is a micrometer on the end, right? So loosening that up and then prepping it to, hopefully that's in focus. Yeah, I think it is. And then prepping that and removing the bit and then putting the other bit in. So this is the appropriate sized bit, but if this breaks off, I'll just flatten the end of that bit and use that for just tighten that up, loosen this on top, and then see if I can cut in, because it's always good to use a smaller drill bit anyway to get it in there nicely. A lot of cutting oil. Alright, see if this works. This is a bit central. Just gonna move this over a little bit so the lighting's better. There, I think hopefully that's good enough. Now I gotta see if this will actually work. Oh yeah, I already broke the bit off. Wonderful. You know what that means, eh? That means I'm gonna step on it later because it's somewhere on the ground. And it's gonna hurt like hell. I had to pull a bit out of my foot the other day. So that is a yellow one. I'm gonna see if I can sharpen this on the end just to start the other one. And I think that's good. That'll start the other one. I'm really curious where that other bit went though, because I want to stand on the damn thing, because it does hurt. It goes bling, and then I end up with it in my foot, which really sucks. No, this looks like it's that bit is fairly crisp. I'm not sure what the hell's going on there. I'm gonna have to put the other bit back in there for a second to see if I can't recover that hole a bit. A bit, I said the word bit, didn't I? So funny. I don't know why that one wouldn't work. The other one did work. Doesn't make any sense why that would snap off. Let me see. Let's put a little bit of cutting fluid in there again for the hell of it. It looks like that other bit broke off on the inside again. Damn it. I'm getting sick of that happening. I'm gonna have a look and see how ugly it is. Yeah, looks like there's a little piece inside there. So that won't work unless I have gone deep enough with this. So let me have a look at this. See if it even fits. Sorta. See how that's in there like that? But it's not deep enough. So what I'm going to do is turn this around and do the same thing from the other side. See what happens. Because I can get rid of the graving on that side, so, or the inconsistency on that side. So I'm going to do the exact same thing, which is insanity, right? And see if I can expect different results with the exact same thing, which is the definition of insanity. So we just tighten that up and see if it's nice and, yep, it's good. Sharpen the end again. This little bugger seems to be a better bit than the other one was. Pissed off that I keep breaking the ends off though. This is not easy. Not an easy job. I should move this a lot closer so it doesn't have as much rattle while it's moving. I just move the tool rest over a bit and then reclamp this so it's a little closer and there's less movement. So put it right there, which is a lot closer, which means it's going to shake a lot less. And see if I can do what I did last time. A little bit of cutting oil. I have to take a shower later on, so it'll be full of cutting oil. And let's see if this works. That's a lot of cutting oil. Kind of have to have the exact right speed to make this thing work properly. Oh man, what a pain in the buttinsky. Clean it off. A little bit more cutting oil. Whoa, too much cutting oil. See how deep this is? Yeah, it's still pretty shallow. Same as last time. Now the theory was if I use a bigger bit, then I won't have the issue. So let me see if I can sharpen this a little bit. Theoretically, it's sharper. I got more cutting oil on my fingers and see how deep I am here. I'm pretty deep. To look at this shaft again. I wish this was the right size and I just slip it in and away it goes, but it's a little bit bigger than that. So it's not going to just slip in like that. So I'm going to just hit the camera and try this again a little bit deeper. That's pretty deep there. I don't think I need to go any deeper, but let me see. Let me look at this again. The nubbly. It's right around there, and I'm right there. Yeah, so that is deep enough. Now I need a bigger gauge jobby-do here, and this is where I screwed up last time. So again, it's friggin' tricky to do this properly. And this was the gauge I used, so let me go into my crazy bits here and see if I can break another one. So I think this is the bit that's equal to the yellow bit. This is the bit equal to the yellow bit, and I'm going to look at the this here and sort of match it and see if it's the same size, and it is. Looks like it's, yeah, it's the same size, but I'm worried that this thing is going to snap. If it snaps, I'd rather have it snap down here. That way I can sharpen it and not have to worry about it. But maybe if I spin it really fast, it's not going to snap. I don't know. I got this suspicious feeling that this is going to friggin' snap again. I don't want it to, but I think it will. Alright, some cutting oil. Plenty of cutting oil. Just like to feed that oil right into that hole somehow. I just need it to go in about 4 inches, so. Look at that, cut perfectly. Now, I know I'm going to get splinters in my hands. Now the question is that too big or too small or the right size or what for this? That's not too shabby. Look at that. And it actually feels like it's friction fitting in there. Not perfect, but it's not bad. So I think I can glue that into place, no problem. It's a little bit loose, but oh, actually it's pretty tight. So I don't have to take any material off of it, but I'm gonna go just a tiny bit deeper, and please pray that I don't snap this bit off. If you could pray for me, please. Alright, that's good enough. Grab the metal off the end, so that was really successful. Alright, now I'm going to turn this off, take this bit off, turn this around, and figure out where I need to start tapering this thing down for the pivot. So here's the result. So this is now flush with the gear, which is great. I may, let me see how this is. This is super flush? Yeah, pretty much. Turn that around and make sure there's no issues here. May take a little bit off the end here, but just to make it completely flush. But I don't want to. I still need the hole to be the right size. But I think I've got it big enough. I think the hole's big enough to go back even more. So the trick now is to make the pivot on the end, right? And to know where to start to make the pivot. So I know that I got this little nubbly here, so I can start anywhere from here out when I make that pivot. But I want to make sure that when it's in the movement that I need to know, really need to know how far up I have to start that while it's in the movement, right? So it's sized properly. So what I'm going to do is drop this into the movement and then measure the distance from the base of the gear all the way to the top, and then I have to measure it slightly beyond the top by a couple of millimeters to give it the pivot for the actual second hand. So, but I'm going to cut the end off of this knobby here, and I'll be back in a second. So once again, there's the the shaft sitting over the top of that other shaft. So that's my blued steel that I prepared and drilled a hole for, and it's sitting over the top. So what I'm going to do is make sure this here end is flush, so it's flat. So when it goes in, it sits flat. I don't want to take too much material off, otherwise it won't work properly. So I'm going to stick it in there and do that. So here I'm going to just flatten this out a bit to make sure there's no inconsistencies at all, and hopefully this graver is sharp enough. There we go, that's perfect. And then I'm just going to take the lip off this just a bit. Just a bit. So turn this around, move this over like this. I think this has got to be out a bit. And just measure where it's going to hit the metal, right about there. Tighten that up. Tighten this up in the bottom, like that, and just shave a little bit off here. And okay, that's pretty good there. And then I'm going to put the gear back in here and make sure it still fits. If it doesn't fit, I will be pissed off. It doesn't fit all the way in. The heck? That, my friends, is perfection. So it fits completely all the way in, and now the piece of blued steel I prepared is flush with the gear itself, and the gear is pretty tight, so when I press this on and glue it, that should be vertical, should be completely up and down. And of course there's some praying involved, but hopefully it's completely up and down. So now I need to take this gear and put it back into the movement that's in the tray here, and then see how high, like how long does this thing need to be to hit the first jewel in the plate. See how much room I've got here. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, this is all for the purpose of videotaping, but I've got the gear now, and I've got the there's the gear. Just put it over here like that, and I've got the new shaft. I'm going to pull that out of the collet here. There's the new shaft there. So if I put that gear in place, I think that tucks in underneath, right? So this is going to be a tough measure, because I'm going to shove this, put this gear where it belongs, and it should just sit in there perfectly, right? So like so. Alright, come on, get in there. And is that in the hole? I think so. I may have to do this without you guys watching, but that's not in the jewel hole yet. Oh, you know why? I'm stupid. This actually goes the other way around, but this will give me a general look at the distancing anyway. There it is there. So it's sticking in the wrong jewel hole. So this would be upside down the other way, and then this would be sticking in on top of this like so. I'm trying to put this on top without shaking too much here. Like that, right? And then the plate for this watch goes, I'm going to have to exaggerate when I cut the pivot, but the plate goes on top like this, like that. And you can see how much that sticks out, like that. So on the other side, I'm probably going to have to trim off, like start my pivoting. I got plenty of space here, so I'll probably have to start here and just start cutting up from where it stops, where it's going to be glued onto this wheel, and then cut it at 0.24 all the way up till it goes through this jewel hole on the other side. So, and that'll be a challenge. So let me just take this out like that, move this aside, and then when this is installed, it'll go through this way, like that. And then this jewel hole, this will be like this, and up a bit, like so. And then I'll have the rest of it will be just sticking through there on the end. So it's important for me to measure how much, after you glue this on here, how much room do I have after this to make that pivot on the end. Probably not a lot. So anyway, trial and error. And then I'll be fitting it in and trying it out. So, and I do have a ruler that's jeweled that'll help me with that. So let me just set this up again to grave this down. So there's the piece of metal in there, and I've got to get that down to 0.24, which is pretty small, and I've got a gauge I'm going to be using to measure that. Let's see if I have the gauge upstairs here. Just stand by for a second. I think I might have put it in my jeweling thing. No, I didn't. So I'm going to have to go get that gauge so I can measure that properly. I'll be back in a second. Alright, I'm going to start working the metal down because I got a lot of metal to work down before I get to the point where I've got to deal with the 0.24 thing. So I'm just going to use my bigger graver here to get rid of larger chunks of metal. One thing I got to make sure is that when I get to the end here, I don't break this thing off. I think really I don't need to have it that big on the end. I just need to make sure that the height is right. So, which is probably, I could cut this away probably right here and deal with it. So what I'll do is I'll cut the end part to the right size so I have an idea of how big the rest of it has to be. And then I can cone this a bit to give it some strength. And then go from there, right? But I can take a lot of material off on the end here and just start working on it. So, but for the sake of a mess, I need to put a little bit of a pad under here so I don't have metal all over the freaking place. There, I got a pad under there, and I'm just going to work away on this thing here to cut the metal down to the right size. Oh, I take this safety thing off the end here. This is a device that's used to make sure that you've got 90 degrees and stuff when you're making balance or when you're making stems and stuff. So I'm going to work the metal down on the end here first, and I'll come back when it's down to almost nothing. So there you go. Alright, so here's my famous ruler for measuring stuff. And the hole has got to be 0.24, 0.26, 0.25, somewhere in there. And that's a small shaft, so I really got to watch as I taper this thing down how that I don't break it off. So it's pretty small though. So, and if I look at, if I use my Durzamine gauge, this gauge here, I use this gauge here, and to measure this, I got to make sure that on the other end here I'm 0.24. So I'm going to keep an eye on it as I go down in size to make sure that I'm not screwing myself when I'm getting close. So anyway, I'm going to keep working at it, and I'll be back when it's close. I probably should have done this before, but I have a set of pivot gauges here, right? Put these down for a second, and I'm going to measure the which one fits in the plate here in the proper place, and then I'm going to measure my ruler to see if it's the same size as that. So as I grab these pivot gauges, say I grab, say, 0.34 like that. I don't want to break anything off because I'm just trying to make sure that's the right size. And I stick that in. I go, wait a second now. That looks like it's not going in the hole. So 0.34 is too fat. I think it was, I said it was 0.25. 0.2, let's go 0.24 here and fit that in. And yeah, that's like almost a perfect fit. When I stick that in the hole here, it looks like it's almost a perfect fit. See that? So it's got to be at least 0.24. Now I'm going to go to my jewel gauge with this and see what this thing says. It looks like it's 0.24 is right here, and I'm going to put that in there. That ain't fitting in. So I'm having a discrepancy. So 0.28 fits. Yeah, 0.28 fits nicely, and 0.26 is too tight. So 0.28 is the right one. So as I get closer, I'm going to measure 0.28. And then if I look at my door Duzeman gauge here, and I squeeze the end of this pivot gauge, I'll be able to look at the other end and see where that sits. It sits around 2 on the end there. So when I'm getting close to 2 units, it's just around 2, then this thing is good to go. So 0.28 or 2 units. So this, if I measure this on the end here, I got a ways to go. So just measure this one here, and I look at it, turn it the other way so I can read the damn thing. I said damn too many times. This is 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 now on the tip. So that's 3. So I think I'll break that off if I keep using my gravers. So I'm going to use a stone to get that down to size, and maybe with a little cutting oil. I think this stone here is the one that cuts the fastest. So I don't know if cutting oil is supposed to be on this stone, but I'm going to put it on anyway. So I'm going to start peeling away at this to see if it actually removes material. So I'm going to just do this until I get this down to the world's smallest piece. Just like that, and it'll start cutting away at this until it's the right size. And that's much less dangerous than graving it down, although I could probably take some of the material off on the fat side with the graver, so, and then use the stone after. So you go back to plan A, and then maybe pull out, I think this one here was the sharpest one, and I put that in here, and then see if I can remove a bit of material here. Got a lot of crap piling up here, but just a little bit more material, so I can get down to the stone after. Just like that, and then I'll just turn this off for a second until I get it down to something close. So this is how you work the stone. You do it very slowly with a lot of up pressure, but removing the material as needed till you get it to the right size. So you just do this and work the material, and you really got to take your time. It doesn't take a lot off all at once, but you don't want any pressure on that because you're making the world's smallest shaft. So just like so. And you can add a little oil to it to keep it nicely lubricated so it doesn't heat it up too much. That's how you do it. There, now I've tapered the end so I know that the end of the gauge fits 28. So there we go, fits perfectly on 28, which means the rest of the shaft has got to be the exact same size as the end of the gauge. So I got to keep working it with it. So the jewel slipped off my ruler, but this is how far it's gone up the shaft. So it's almost near the end of the shaft. So I'm almost done this thing. Got a little bit of stuff to remove from the very end, and then that's it. I think that's the whole thing done. Just grab that jewel with the Rodico and then work this last little piece so that it's thinner. Now I got to see if the actual plate will go up that shaft. Let's clean this off just a bit and then grab the plate. And when the plate's sitting like this, it's this jewel, so I'm going to make sure I don't twist the plate either because it'll snap the jewel off. I'll put it in backwards because it's easier to put in. That looks like it's all the way up the shaft there. So I don't think there's much more to do. I think that's it right there. If I take any more off, I'm risking. I'll take a little tiny bit off, just a tiny bit. I smooth it out with this stone here, which is a lot smoother than the other stone, but I need the right angle here to get this end part here. And then, just to make sure it's absolutely smooth, I'm going to burnish it with this piece of metal here. Now I'm going to take the stone out here, and I'm going to, wherever the stone is, I'm going to put that back on the shaft, nice and easy. Nice and easy. There it is there. Then I'm going to ride it up with, if I can find my tweezers. Of course I can't find my tweezers. I'll grab another pair here, because I want to ride that up the shaft. Without putting any pressure on the shaft at all. That stone is almost to the top of that shaft. So that's pretty much done. I think I gotta take just a tad more off there. This is a stone from my ruler, so I don't want to lose that. So let me just use my burnisher and to take the last bit off here. Well, I know from the plate that that'll fit on perfectly. So let me just remove that. I'm going to remove this from here, and it's on there really well. And I got the stone stuck on the end of this Rodico, but I want to remove it and then put it with the ruler so I don't lose that stone, and somehow get that stone back in the ruler. But anyway, here's the Rodico here, so I'm going to just poke this like this, and I don't want it to get lost. Oh shit, there we go. Did I say shit? I meant shoot. You don't want to bend this. Try to grab it with my tweezers ever so carefully. And there we go. And that's it there. So I'm going to put this down really fast. And then if I'm going to see if I can get a close-up, I'm going to put this on the wheel and then get a close-up of the whole thing. Just hang on 1 second, okay? Alright, there's the close-up of the cap, and that's the basically that's the where the second hand will fit onto, and I just have to size it, make sure it's the right size. I'm hoping that I've got enough movement or enough material on the end, and that, my friends, fits on the end of this like so. Let me see if I can put that in. Can I put that in, or do I want to put that in? Because it's not really glued in yet. So, but if you take this like so, getting close as I can here, and you were to put this in here, I'm trying to fit it here. Let me just put it upside down for a second. And it's this one right here. So what happens when you do this under camera work, camera duress, I'll call it. Do I have it? Get that hand out of the way. Okay, there we go. And then down a bit and over a bit. There we go. And then I'll just see if that fits in there. And that goes in. If I let go of the tweezers, and it falls in. And there we go. Now, that's almost all the way up, like that. And it's like this. I may have to take a little bit more material off, but that, my friends, is the idea. It's sitting there in the jewel, and that's where the wheel is. So that'll be upside down like that. And I may have to take a bit more material off the end there, because it looks like it's got a little ways to go before it seats nicely in there. So I will address that in a second. Plus, I may have to shave some material off the end of the fatter part, because it rests on the inside of the jewel. Anyway, I'll deal with that. That's my video, so I guess I'm going to have to tell you if it worked or not later. But I'm sick, can't record anymore because it's Sunday, but that's the idea. Put a cap on it. I'm going to trim it down to the size of the jewel on the very end, and then I'm going to glue that piece on onto the wheel, and then I got myself a second hand. See it sticking through there? Woohoo! Look at that, just have to trim it down now. Okie dokie, I figured I'd add this as the last part of the video. So here's the part here, and if you can, I'll just get this out of the way, and you can see it's stepped on the very end. Let me see, up and down, left and right. I just step it to the exact same size of the outer part of the jewel. So this fits through the jewel hole, and then the step hits the jewel. And then this bottom part is the part that goes onto the gear. And I'll show you that in a second, but let me show you how it steps in. So I put that in here, in the hole here, like so. I should be using my glasses when I'm doing this, but my golf voice. And that fits nicely in the hole. And then this here will be upside down and will be fitting on top of this little piece I made. So it'll be over the top of this. I don't even think I can put it in right now, but it'll be over the top of this. And yeah, it's not going to go in. I've got to assemble it first before I can put it in. I think I do anyway. Maybe I don't. Let me have a look from the side here to see if it's almost in. Yeah, it's just trying to... No, it's not going to go in with the... I don't want to put it in, because if I put it in, I'll never get it out again. Oh, I think it's in. Wait. There. So that's tucked in there. And I got to do some measuring to make sure it's the right size. And then the plate, so that would go in like that. And this goes down like that. It's lower. I got to make sure this is lower than the balance, because it looks like it's higher up than touching the balance. So I just have to take a little bit of material off it, I believe. And it's a little bit high up in the plate too, so I got to take a little bit of material off the top of that, and then that'll fit like this. And then this plate will go on the top like this through the top of that. So the plate will go on like that, and then that'll fit on there, and then it's good to go. So, but that's not going to fit on right now because it kind of fits, but it's a little bit high. So I got to adjust that down by taking a little bit of metal off that. Not sure what to call that part, but you just have to take a little bit of metal off it so it fits properly. Because right now it's a little bit too high. But there you go. That's the part. I don't want to bend anything here, so a little bit reluctant to fix it. It's in there well though. It's a little bit too big. So anyway, I'll take that out tomorrow, and I just have to, on the back, the bottom side of that touching the jewel, I have to remove just ever so little bit of material so it doesn't get jammed up and it's just under the balance. And then this lowers it just a bit so it's inside the plate. And then when that's done, I have to glue that on to the wheel, and then the wheel should be completely fixed. And there it is sitting in the hole, and on the other side you would see there is the second hand sticking out right there. And I'll adjust that second hand so it doesn't stick out like that once I get this whole thing all assembled. So there you go. I had to show you kind of the end thing, and I got to make the movie now because I'm busy this week. But I just have to lower that just a bit. So I'll end up putting that back in the lathe and taking just a 0.5 5 millimeter off the bottom part, so it lowers it a bit. And if I look at the top part here, the pivot on the top here, it just needs to go down ever so slightly, and that'll be fitting nicely. So there you go. So that's a new way of putting a pivot on there, which I'm hoping works perfectly. So there you go. Thank you very much.